there's nothing, it's uncomfortable. It's like, what do I do? But I find when you can have someone lean on a stool or lean on a chair or lean on a wall, it's an anchor point. So it's not so insecure. So if you get someone that just feels really uncomfortable posing, don't just say, yep, stand out there on a white background, and we'll capture it like that. I try to give them something more comfortable. So I think that chair should be fine or something. Is that as high as it goes? Okay. Yeah, the apple box is fine. I'm going to put that in like the little kid posing category. Okay, cool. And actually, can I have it faced this way? I'm going to step on my background. Ready? Thank you. All right, do you feel okay sitting on this? All right, cool. It might be slightly uncomfortable. You okay? All right, cool. So general pose is using that table. And that's definitely as high as it goes? Okay, good, cool. So what we're going to do is, let's pretend that I actually only have this posing table, and that's as low as it goes, or as high as it goes. What I want to do is I want to make sure when she's trying to reach it, she's not doing this. Instead, it's more of a lean forward. Okay, so that actually looks good. Now relax your shoulders. And I'm going to show the difference so you can just see what I'm working with. Can you go before where you're leaning towards the table? Okay, cool. So this is, let me lower my light. All right. All right, so when she first sat down, this is basically how she sat down. And if you notice, oh, it's a little bright. Hold on. I think I squished my exposure. Let's try this again. Okay, now I always laugh because models look good in almost any pose half the time. Like, she still looks pretty. But if you look, she doesn't really have much of a neck, and there's a big curve here. She still looks nice. Let's put it this way. If you're not super skinny, that's not going to be a good pose for you. So I'm going to have you pull up and then lean forward. Good. And now relax your shoulders a little bit. Great. So let's take a look at this same thing. So just watch the difference between the two. Okay, so it's going to be just a little bit more comfortable. All right, however, right now, these hands are they're a little posed or placed, or they're not super interesting. So you've got to figure out what else you can do with them. So if I just stay right there, let's bring your back arm up to your face. Perfect. Great, just like that. Let's take a shot. And in this instance, normally this wouldn't be the case. She wouldn't have to lean forward. But if, let's say, I was actually getting this in the shot, something else that I see is this line is still not as curvy as I want. If I were shooting this that far, I'd have her arch her lower back, because then it would just give me another nice little curve in there. All right, so we'll do something like that. Great. And I'm going to turn your hand towards your face the other way, right there. Good. So let's try this. And elongate your fingers a little. Good. Perfect. Okay. And of course, this is not super dressed up. But let's imagine, for example, let's like take a Sue picture. She's all glammed up, and she's leaning out on white cloth or the white edge of a couch or something like that. You know, the fundamentals are the same. So one of the reasons I like poses like this for women is that, we'll put it this way, if it's a glamour or boudoir shot, there's still attention here, okay? But at the same time, let's say someone's a little bit heavier. You don't have to show everything if you can't really get that pose the way you want. Watch the hands. The reason that I had her put her back hand up is, can you put your front arm up this time? Good. And she actually still looks fine, but put your whole hand out like this. Okay. We get back to that problem where she's covering her jawline. And so now I've hidden something that I probably want to show for my client, and I can't see their jawline or their neck. So that's why most of the time I err towards putting the backhand up towards the face. The other thing that I was watching with her, can you put your other arm back up again? By default, turn your hand towards, like, other way. Okay, so by default, when she sat down, she did this. Turn it even more towards me. There you go. As I said, put your hand up, and so she did this, cupping her hand towards me. In general, you want to watch out so that you don't see the palm of the hand. Not that the palm of the hand is super, like, bad, but usually, A, it's the lightest part of someone's body, like it's really pale. So our eyes go to the lightest part of the photo, so go to the hand, and it also goes to the bigger part of the photo, which in this instance would be her hand. So on your checklist, when you're posing hands, you don't want to see this. If you are going to vary the hand position, you want to see the pinky. You want to see just right here. This is the narrowest part of the hand. It's the softest. So something like that is usually what you're aiming for. So I'm going to have you put your back arm up one more time. Good. And then rotate your hand towards your face. Great. And then put that pinky up with the others. Perfect. So something like that. And there you go. Great. Perfect. So this would be just a basic go-to pose. If you did want to have the arms down, like we've got that same thing, can you put your arms like this? By default, and can you put them flat? By default, she did something like that. Okay, something like this is where when I told her to put her hands down. But what I get are these little like claw fingers coming towards camera, and then this is just a flat line. So I want to try something where, can you put your your left hand up like this on your arm? Yeah, something like that. Good. And then wrap the other one around even more, and then up just a little bit. So you could do something like softer. I'm trying to not see little nub fingers, and I don't want flat hands. I want like more curves. I could go something like that, or like this, or like this. So I'm trying to just move things. So let's see. And tilt your head this way just a little bit. And then hands up your arms this time. Good. And then rotate. Yeah. So let's do something like that. And relax your shoulders. Good. Okay, cool. And I want to do one more. Can you put your back arm up to your face? And then put this hand here. Okay, so you could also do something like that. Perfect. If you want to see nails or the ring or something like that. Okay. So I know you got that for me, but it should be okay. All right, so we're going to, checking time, good. We're going to go to number 5, which is going to be you sitting. Can I have that chair? Oh, wait, yeah, okay, perfect. All right, so let's go to an essential, no problem, essential sitting pose. And I've got another sitting on the ground, but for this, I'm going to turn it away real quick. This would be for a couch or a chair or a bench or something like that, because, do you mind if I sit there for a second? I'm taking over. What I see a lot of times is if you have someone with a chair, they tend to sit back. And when you sit back, my knees are probably closer to the camera, my stomach's probably closer to the camera, my neck is probably back. Like, I try not to give people chairs to sit in. In my studio, I give them posing stools or something like that so that they don't feel inclined to do this. If you do have a chair and you don't want to include the chair in the shot, I make my subjects sit on the edge of the chair so that they have to lean forward to get your balance. Because sitting on the edge of the chair leaning back doesn't work. Like, it's really uncomfortable. So if they sit on the edge of the chair, they just naturally lean forward for their own balance. And I just make sure they don't lean forward in that way. So this is an instance, like I said, if there's a couch you want to include or a beautiful chair, or they're out on location with a bench, one way to include it would be something like this, where they kind of lean back to it. You got to watch a few things, so I'll show you how this looks and what you would have to tweak. So here you go. All right, perfect. So I'm going to have you put your arm back up on the chair. Good. All right, so do it bad first. Okay. She's a model, like, you know. I'm going to just move your hair real quick. Same thing, pull the hair away from the front side of the neck. A lot of people, if you have them put their arm back on the chair or the couch, they do this, or they slouch. So I'm going to show you right now kind of what we have. Okay. Like I said, models look good all the time. Okay, now pull up to the top of your head. Great, perfect, just like that. And I'm going to do one more bad thing. Can you rotate your hand towards me? Okay. So sometimes people will do this as well. I'm going to show you some bad ones. So this is bad posture. Whatever's closest to the camera. I mean, right now, all I see is this right here. So what I had her do is I had her pull up to the top of her head. And so what that does is it kind of elongates that area. But then we run into a problem. When she did that, she did this. When she sat up straight, she pulls her elbow back. When she pulls her elbow back, now you have foreshortening. She doesn't have a forearm whatsoever. So I will have you rotate your hand back this way. And what it's going to give me is a very nice triangle. Perfect. Lower your front shoulder a little bit if you can. Great. And tilt your head back just a tiny bit. Perfect. Good. So now we'll have a triangle here, a nice negative space here, and a longer neck. So some variety of that. And of course, I can come around from this angle and photograph her. It's going to be a hideous background. I'll just show you. I can come around to this angle and shoot her here. And this looks very nice, minus the background. So we've got negative space. It's going to show the outline of her body, negative space here, and it's really nice for her jawline. So even though I can't move too much here, maybe I would try a really high angle. I'll try one now if you don't mind. Can I have my Apple box? We'll quick try a high angle, but that might look nice as well. I just want to watch. I can still see negative space. Okay, thank you. Perfect. Okay. Like I said, my background's crazy, but you'll get the idea. So she wouldn't have to move at all, and I could still have that. So imagine that she's on a chaise. It's a couch behind her. Whatever's closest to the camera looks largest, so that looks very nice. And then I'd have negative space for the couch there. So that would be my women sitting on a chair, but let's go to you sitting on the ground. I'll remove this stuff real quick. I have some stuff for you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so for sitting on the ground, I'm going to have you lie on your stomach. I had a grammar crisis today. Is she lying on the ground or laying on the ground? See, grammar crisis. It was bad. I was trying to figure this out, and it was stressing me out. So I wrote woman on ground. I was like really upset about it. I was really good at grammar, but apparently not that good. Okay. Let's change my light. Okay. So the basic pose is that she's on her stomach with her hands in front. But you can totally work it in a million different ways depending on who your subject is. So I'm going to pretend you're a high school senior girl, or let's go for like a little girl. Okay? So perfect. All right. So can you kick your feet up behind you? And presuming a little kid's not wearing heels. I'm guessing. Okay. Let me advance to the next slide so you can, let me just give you an idea here. You know, so here is a little girl, hand to her face, both hands to her face, shoes kicked up. Okay, this would be maybe a portrait laying on a couch or something, but let's imagine that it's boudoir. Okay, let's imagine she's in lingerie. In this instance, maybe we kick this hip up, so I give myself a little more curve. And I pull this elbow back, so I can see her chest a little bit more. It's the same pose. Here, all she did is kick her feet up, and I'm at a different angle. Here, it's straight on, boudoir, kick this hip up, bring this elbow back, but it's just working the same one. So I'm actually going to have you turn your face a little bit more towards the light. Perfect. I'll show you what you don't want to do. Please don't do this. I used to do this, without a doubt. Okay, ready? I bet you guys all know what I'm doing. Okay. Avoid that if you are going to do the little kid, you know, feet kicked up. So instead, you can change your angle. They don't need to move. I can come up from over here. Or can you rotate towards the light just a little bit, your whole body, and then bring your hips towards me? Yeah, good. Let me fix this. There you go. So this could be little kid, bare feet kicked up in the background, for example. All right, let's change the audience. Let's change the subject matter, okay? Let's imagine, like I said, no heels, little kid. Now can you go ahead and put your hand to your face? Perfect. And now I'm going to have you bring your elbow back. Right now she had her elbow out too far, so it's going to be bigger. So I had her tuck it back in. Also what happens, can you put your arms way out? When people do that, you run into the no neck problem. Because she put her arms all the way out, she has no neck. They do have to support themselves and elongate a little bit. So something like that. Perfect. So this could be, I'll pull up just a little bit. Right there, good. This would be maybe a high school senior portrait. Well, I'm going to say this as delicately as possible. I'm not trying to show a lot of chest and a lot of curves, but it's cute, it's on the ground, there's not a lot of attention to the form, more just to like, she's chilling on the ground. Okay, now let's take it and make it a little bit more bourgeois in this case. Can you flip your hair to the other side? Perfect. I'm going to have you put your back arm up, okay, and then I'm going to have you pull that elbow back to your side. Perfect. Then I'm going to have you put your feet down. Okay, good. And I'm going to have you kind of, basically your left hip, pop it up. And you can do that by leaning on your knee, like pop your knee over. See, I don't know how to do this with a dress on. Okay, cameras, don't get me for a second. Okay, ready? Can you just do something like this, like bend that knee? Yes, perfect. Okay, keep bending it even more. Bring it up, bring it up. Okay, so what she did, as she did that, is it popped up her bottom, basically, to give me more curve. So for example, if this is boudoir, and I can shoot narrow depth of field, look ahead to the light again. Good. And let's try something like this. And kick that knee up even more, like bend it. Let me see. Yeah, good. Good. Okay, but for example, I can do that same shot from here. So stay right there. Good. And now you can put your foot back down and keep extending it. You can put your foot, keep going, good. And I could go from, good. And let me do one more just like this. So all of it varying my angle, different effects. So I'll give you a break for a minute, and I'm going to have our gentleman model come help me. Thank you. All right. So that basic pose, and like I said, if you guys are looking at the presentation, that basic pose is just they're on their stomach with their hands up, but it can be hands together, both hands down, one hand up, elbow back to showcase something different. So that all makes a difference. And then how far up you pop the hips makes a difference. All right, so let's start with guy standing. All right, so the most basic for guy standing is, of course, they all cross their arms, right? They all like cross their arms. That's comfortable for most guys. I'm not going to say remember that because that's obvious. Like, that's really an obvious one that they do by default. But if you do shoot that, what you want to watch out for is depending on what shirt they have, that everything doesn't just crinkle up, because that is what destroys. Like, he looks super comfortable. I have him in a fitted black tee. It'll look totally fine with this pose. But like I said, this isn't my 10. So come up a little bit closer. Okay, right there. Perfect. Anyway, so notice, like, there's no problem with his shirt. But if he had a dress shirt on, and that's what I see happen a lot, is this is the go-to pose. You'll have a guy coming in for a corporate headshot, and he comes in, and he goes like this, and just his whole dress shirt crumples. So you might want to avoid that. So one that doesn't mess with the clothes is this next one. And guys, I'm going to flip to Keynote real quick. Super simple guy standing pose. Hand just like that. Like, he just does it now. Oh, he's a model. You know, that's his thing. But generally what looks better is fingers in the pockets, then thumb in and fingers out. So I'm going to be switched. Great. Perfect. It just draws a whole bunch of attention. It just looks really big, especially if they're wearing dark jeans. And then at the same time, both of his hands now are at the same level, so my eyes are just drawn there, which is usually not what I want in a portrait. So instead, I'm going to have a tuck. That'll make a huge difference. It's going to look much better. Great. Okay. The next thing, he's already doing some of this right, because this is what he does. So it just looks much better. The next thing is, depending on the size of your subject, depends on where you want to angle them. So I do this, hands in pocket. God, I have a pocket. I didn't realize. Okay, awesome. Hands in pocket, other hand just loose, so they're super comfortable. If your subject is very wide and broad-shouldered, you might, for example, want to take this side, the side without the hand, and just pull it back a little bit. and then have them lean towards camera. Because straight on, they're going to be widest. If you've got a really scrawny guy, like really, really skinny, you probably want him more or less facing straight towards camera. And then instead of like leaning forward, have it be more of a step. This is going to make them look a little bit bigger, a little bit more aggressive. Versus for some guy that's just a little bit wider, turn them to the side and have them lean towards you a little bit. Versus the skinny guy, straight on and step. So it's just little tweaks, but it's super basic. And for full length version of this, how you are is good. Okay? Something you usually want to watch out for. Can you bring your foot over to the side? Good. This isn't terrible. So this one doesn't bother me too much. But sometimes when guys' legs are apart too much, it looks like they're posing kind of girly. Which, I mean, it depends on what look you're going for. But in general,